have to go through that phase where you're grinding, where you get started, where you risk everything, and right now you're stuck. You're stuck in the position where you're broke, you don't know what to do, you don't know where you're going, but I'm here to tell you it's possible. I know where you're at, I've been there, and it's definitely possible. Alright guys, so I just started off. I'm 24 years old, and what we're going to do in this video is we're going to go over how we got started in the landscape industry. He's 25 years old and we both do landscaping, and we both scaled our businesses over 7 figures a year. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to go and tell you our story, how we got started. So I'll start first. It all got started for me. I'm originally from Mexico. I was born in Mexico. My parents moved to the United States when I was 2 years old, so I grew up in the city of Dalton, Georgia my whole life. I lived in Dalton, Georgia. I was always told by my parents that the best way to make a living or make it out was you got to go to college. You got to go to college. You got to go to college. So that was engraved into my mind like my whole life. So that's the path I decided to go with. I originally thought I was going to be an electrical engineer, but things change and you learn from experience. Whenever I was in Dalton, I was working a 9-to-5 job. I used to work at a carpet mill, making carpet every single day. I know a lot of people in Dalton can relate to that, because majority of the people there, that's what they do. They work in a carpet mill, they work 9 to 5, or they work construction. And that's what I was doing. I was working at a carpet mill, then I was going full-time to college. I wanted to make some extra money, so I got into lawn maintenance and started cutting lawns. And then soon after, I got my associate's degree in Dalton State, and I needed some extra classes to finish my bachelor's degree. So those classes, they weren't offered at Dalton State, so I had to transfer to Kennesaw. So I dropped everything I was doing in Dalton, transferred to Kennesaw, and that's when I run into a buddy of mine. He was doing landscaping, and his name was Jay. His name is still Jay, but his name's still Jay. But at the time he was running a successful landscaping business, and he was 22 years old. I was 19, so he really inspired me. I was like, what is this guy doing that I can't do? And I started learning a thing or two from him, but then after a while, I stopped working with him, and I needed money to pay rent. So I started knocking doors, I started cutting lawns, I started, doing the basics. And after a while, I ran into one of my mentors, which is Grant Cardone, and we went to one of his boot camps. I remember to this day, we had $1,000 in our bank account. We spent like $500 on the ticket and another $500 to, get the hotel, get the food, get everything. We drove all the way to Miami for that boot camp, and then we came back with a bunch of knowledge and a bunch of eye-opening experiences. So I was like, okay, there's people out here making $60 million a year, and I don't think it's possible to at least make $10K a month in order so I can make money to pay my rent. At the time, our rent was around like $700 each, me and Eric. So we needed to perform. We had pressure, and we came back, started door knocking. Every single day we would go door knocking. Boom, 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 door knocking, until we finally landed our first job, which was around, I remember to this day, it was around like $1,000, $1,100. And we trimmed some bushes, we did some lawn care, and then we installed some mulch. And that was really like, okay, this is actually possible. It was really eye-opening. Like, we can actually make money from this and pay our rent. All we wanted to do at the time was make enough money to pay rent, because we weren't making enough to freaking live, We were broke. I was actually in debt at the time. I had like $4K in credit card debt, and I was just trying to make a living, So we made $1,000, then we kept door knocking, and after a while, we started making enough money to market just from door knocking. We'd pay our bills, and then after a while, we saw a couple like $100, $1,000 in our bank account to put into marketing. So we would put it into a platform called Thumbtack. That platform would get us, honestly, those leads were shitty, they were garbage. But at the time we didn't know about Facebook, Google, or all the types of marketing there is nowadays. So we put money into that, and after like 6 months, we ran into our first big concrete job. And I kid you not, we do not have any experience in concrete till that day. And then my brother came back from the consultation, and he's like, I just sold a 70 grand concrete job. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, dude, I just sold a 70 grand concrete job. And we had never done concrete in our life. What he did was he grabbed a subcontractor, he learned some knowledge from him, and then he took his sales experience from knocking doors and he combined that, and he went to go sell a job. And then he sold the job for 70K. Subcontractor charges 15K, the materials another 15K. We made 40 grand on our first concrete job. And I kid you not, that's still our biggest concrete job till this day. Those 40 grand, we took everything and put it into marketing, and that's really when we started scaling. But from my experience, you really have to have that cash flow coming in first in order so you can put it into marketing and then start scaling. But now we're here in this penthouse with our buddies. We have multiple business owners that make over 7-8 figures a year that, they're living the dream life that we wanted to live before, like when we were in college, when we were broke. And even us to this day, like we have multiple trucks, we have multiple crews, we can travel, we can do all of this, but it wasn't possible when we just started. You have to go through that phase where you're grinding, where you get started, where you risk everything, and right now you're stuck. You're stuck in the position where you're broke, you don't know what to do, you don't know where you're going, but I'm here to tell you it's possible. I know where you're at, I've been there, and it's definitely possible.
Yes, sir. So I'm Mario Gambasini. Similar story. I started this actually, I was in college getting my associates too. My mom told me that she really wanted me to get a degree. I was going to be the first one in the family to get a degree. So I went with that. Didn't really know exactly what I was going to do. I was kind of just partying, just drinking on the weekends, just doing a bunch of crazy stuff that didn't better me as a person. And then COVID hit in 2020. I moved back from Athens, Georgia. That's where I was going to school at UNG, get my business associates. Everything was closed down. I started working for one of my buddy's uncles, laying tile and backsplashes. And what I was able to do since I was working for a buddy's uncle, I had a mower because I was mowing my mom's yard. That's what I was doing. So I was mowing my mom's yard every single week because that's just something that my dad, they're divorced, so he wasn't living at the house, so I was like the man of the house. So I would be mowing the yard, and then I picked up 2 of the neighbors just for some extra cash. And then from then, I was just getting, I think I had about 7 in the neighborhood. So once I started realizing like, wow, it's this simple to get yards if you do what you say and you show up on time, then I was like, dang, this is what I'm gonna do. So I started telling my buddy's uncle, which his name is Brian, I told him like I was cutting yards after, so some days he would let me get off early because I'd say I'd had 5 yards after working a 9 to 5. I had to get time to get them cut before it was dark. And then pretty much from lawn maintenance, I got to about 30 within the first summer. And then I started realizing like there was stuff that I could upsell them on. They needed mulch, they needed their bushes trimmed, they needed fresh pine straw, and that's all stuff that I could do. I started with a 5x10 trailer and a Tacoma that my mom bought, and I ran that for 2 seasons. Anything's possible if you just put the work in and just put your mind to it. And then the first big job that I remember was a retaining wall. I've never built a retaining wall myself. I just knew that it needed to be level. So I pretty much got the base level. I was using a level on each block. And honestly, I look back at that wall now, I drove by it, and it's all wiggly. Not proper. It was a learning experience. And what I'm gonna do soon, since it was a small wall, is we're gonna go replace that wall and build it right, the proper way. It was just to get me into more of the install style, and that pretty much taught me a lot. Once I sold that job, I was like, wow, so this job was a $4 grand retaining wall. I'm cutting all these yards, why don't I just sell more of these install jobs? So I started switching over to more of the install side of things, doing more mulch installs, bushes and all that stuff. And then after that, I was like, okay, I'm working all these hours. I told Mr. Bryan, it's like, look, I can make this doing what I'm doing. I know you're paying me good. It was a great experience. So I was like, I need to start working like maybe 2 days a week with you, and then 3 days doing my own things, 3 to 4, because obviously I was working Saturdays back then for sure. And then he was a great boss, so he would let me do that. So when I wasn't busy, I could come back and work for him. So I knew if I didn't have anything, I'd still had a job, which was a great situation to be in. But just to put everything in a short story is we pretty much started from just mowing yards, like literally passing out flyers. Like I used to go after work and pass out. I would put, honestly, you're not supposed to do it, but I would put my business card in their mailbox, or I would knock. Anyone that I saw running, I would introduce myself and tell them what I'm doing. Any yard that I saw that was overgrown, I was putting a note on their door trying to get their business, just trying to build out a name just for myself to kind of grow everything, get everything situated before. And I just learned so much from that process that like now, if I knew all that, or if I knew that information that I know now, it would be a whole different story. So like when I started really getting into it and getting into mentors, that was the biggest part for me, is getting all the systems in place, getting everything more organized. I used to really just write everything down, what everything was done each day, each yard, write the total, and I wasn't even counting like the overhead. I was counting expenses and stuff like that, but I wasn't even adding like insurance or anything like that. So just hanging around people that know what you need to do, and you're going to skip a bunch of years that you're going to take to fail.
Now, I agree with that. Something that is very valuable is time. So if you could pay someone 100, 200, 10,000, 50,000 for 20 years of their time and their knowledge, mistakes and everything, definitely worth it, because money comes and goes. You could literally make 100K tomorrow and lose them the next day and make them the next day again. But time, you never get it back. You're losing it consistently as time like goes, you know? So use your time wisely, invest it wisely. We're young entrepreneurs, 24, 25, and we're only gonna keep growing, you know? Like this is just the beginning. And if we're doing it, you could definitely do it. Especially my people from Dalton, like you guys working in a carpet mill, you guys working in construction, you guys can definitely change your life. And
Right from Kennesaw. And same thing with them, like y'all are going to college, wasting all their time and money partying, and then you're in debt for the rest of your life. Anyone that has the mindset and will put in the effort can start their own business. There's no question about it. If we can do it, then you can do it.
check this view out though.
Let's go.
view. Check where we're at now.
And this is where you could be.
None of this would be possible if we would have just not started, like taken action.
Take the risk, take action, do it. Let's
Do
go.
it now. Don't wait.